Jason. That cocky, self-righteous, not exactly a fresh-faced bastard. His name would be carved into my memory forever, like a knife wound that refused to heal. My cheating wife, Emily, gave him up in a dingy motel under the pretense of lunch with a friend. 3 friggin' minutes. That's how long her betrayal lasted. I didn't stumble upon the truth like some clueless fool, no, I hunted it down. Instinct, gut feeling, whatever you want to call it, had been screaming at me for months. The way she pulled away, the sudden showers as soon as she got home, the fake laughing at jokes I couldn't hear through her locked phone screen. The lies. Jesus, the lies. Work ran late, babe. Just grabbing drinks with Hannah. You're being paranoid. Turns out paranoia is just premature reality. And my reality was about to implode. The discovery. It started with her damn phone. Emily had always been one of those women who posted everything, her coffee, her outfits, her stupid inspirational quotes about trust and growth. But then she got secretive. The phone never left her side. She started sleeping with it under her pillow, taking it into the bathroom, turning it face down at dinner. So one night, I did what any man with a gut full of suspicion would do. I waited. Emily was in the shower, steam curling under the door, humming some song like she wasn't a goddamn traitor. Her phone was on the counter, locked but buzzing with notifications. I had no password, but I had something better, her face. I lifted the phone, angled it towards the door, and boom. Unlocked. The first thing I saw. A message from Jason. Last time was amazing. Can't stop thinking about it. When's round 2? My vision blurred. My pulse hammered in my ears. My hands shook, but I kept scrolling. Texts. Photos. A reservation confirmation for a motel, the same day she told me she was out shopping. I nearly snapped the phone in half. That was all I needed. All the puzzle pieces clicked into place. Emily wasn't just distant, she was screwing around behind my back, and she wasn't even smart about it. I took a deep breath, cracked my neck, and smiled to myself. This wasn't going to end well for her. The setup. I didn't confront her right away. No, that would have been too easy. I needed proof, undeniable, in-her-face proof. So I did what any rational man would do. I followed her. The next time she said she was meeting Hannah for brunch, I tailed her. Kept a safe distance, shades on, hoodie up. Sure enough, she didn't head toward a cafe. She drove straight to the Blue Orchid Motel. Classy. I parked across the street and waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then, like clockwork, Jason pulled up in his silver BMW, looking smug as hell. He strolled inside like a man who had done this 100 times before. My knuckles went white on the steering wheel. I could have stormed in right then. Could have kicked the door down and ended it in flames. But no, that wasn't enough. I wanted her to feel this. To squirm. To drown in the shame of her own actions. So I waited. 20 minutes later, Jason strutted out, straightening his jacket, looking like he just won a prize. Emily followed 3 minutes later. Hair tousled, face flushed, adjusting her blouse like she thought no one was watching. She got in her car and drove off. I let her think she was safe. Because the storm hadn't even begun. I watched her drive away, oblivious to the fact that her world was about to burn. My fingers drummed against the steering wheel, my mind a war zone of rage and calculation. I could have followed her home. I could have confronted her the second she walked through the door, cornered her in the kitchen while she fumbled for an excuse. But no. That would have given her a chance to weasel her way out, to spin a story so ridiculous I might have almost believed it. I needed more than just proof. I needed destruction. The setup. I spent the next 48 hours laying the groundwork. First, I called my buddy Ryan, divorce attorney, bulldog in the courtroom, and the kind of guy who didn't waste time with pleasantries. "She's cheating?" he asked, voice flat. "Yeah. You want revenge or results?" "Both." He exhaled a laugh. "Then let's her over properly." Ryan wasted no time. He had me send over the screenshots, the motel confirmation, and, just for good measure, the security footage he pulled from a friend who worked at the motel. "Yeah. I got that too." Turns out, they didn't even spring for a room in the back, just waltzed into the place like they had nothing to hide. Amateurs. The first strike. The next move was personal. I made sure Emily's phone was still connected to our shared cloud. Then, I did what any man in my position would do, I synced her messages to my laptop. And that's when I found the real gold. Jason, that cocky, self-righteous bastard, wasn't just screwing my wife. He was married. And his wife, Lauren, was blissfully unaware. Until now. I drafted the message carefully. No emotion, no theatrics, just cold, hard facts. "Hey Lauren. I'm sure this is the last message you expected today, but you deserve to know the truth. Your husband, Jason, has been seeing my wife, Emily. I've attached proof, screenshots, a motel reservation, even a video from the security footage. I'm not reaching out for drama, just to make sure you aren't living in the dark. Do what you need to do. Mark." I hesitated for exactly 0 seconds before hitting send. And then, like clockwork, the world started crumbling. The blowback. 2 hours later, Emily called me. "Mark," she said, her voice a little too sweet. "Are you home? I thought we could. How was lunch?" I cut in. A pause. A sharp inhale. Then, what do you mean?" "With Hannah," I continued, letting the words drip with amusement. "I mean, that's where you were, right? Not screwing Jason in a motel?" Silence. I could hear her brain scrambling, reaching for a lie, a way out. But I wasn't done yet. Or should I ask Lauren how she feels about it? That's when the panic set in. "Mark, I can explain." "Explain?" I laughed. A deep, bitter sound. "Go ahead. Explain how you ended up at the Blue Orchid Motel instead of brunch. Explain how lunch only lasted 3 minutes. Explain the texts, the security footage." "Oh, that's right, I have it all." She made a strangled noise, something between a gasp and a whimper. "Mark, please." But I wasn't listening anymore. Because at that moment, someone else was about to make her life even worse. The unexpected arrival. A car screeched to a stop outside. A door slammed. I walked to the window just in time to see Lauren. Jason's wife. And she wasn't alone. Before I could react, my front door exploded open, and there she was, 5 feet 4 inches of pure fury, clutching a stack of printed-out text messages and a wedding ring she had clearly just ripped off her finger. Emily, still clutching the phone, turned in horror. "You," Lauren spat, storming forward. "You absolute piece of trash." Emily took a step back. "Lauren, I don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, cut the bulls asterisk, you lying skank, asterisk asterisk." Lauren threw the papers in her face. Texts fluttered to the ground like confetti at the world's worst parade. How long? How long have you been screwing my husband?" Emily turned to me, as if I was going to save her. As if I was anything but the one who set this whole thing in motion. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, and smirked. "Go on, Em. Explain." She sputtered. It wasn't serious. It was just a mistake. Lauren let out a laugh that could have melted steel. A mistake? Oh, sweetheart, he was sending you, "I love you" texts. That doesn't sound like a mistake to me. Emily went pale. Yeah, Lauren hissed. Didn't expect me to find those, did you? She turned to me, eyes blazing. You want to know the best part? Jason was planning to leave both of us for some 23-year-old bartender. For the first time since this nightmare began, Emily looked truly shocked. Lauren smirked. Didn't think you were special, did you? Emily shook her head, taking a shaky step forward. No, that's not true. He told me. Lauren held up a hand. Oh, save it. You deserve each other. She turned to me, eyes softening. I'm sorry you got dragged into this mess, Mark. But I promise you, I'm about to make Jason's life hell. I grinned. Need any help? She smiled, wicked and full of promise. Actually, yeah. Let's ruin them both. I looked at Emily, her face drained of color, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. For the first time since this all started, I felt something close to satisfaction. This was just the beginning. And I wasn't done yet. Emily stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing, searching for a way out, a lie to spin, an excuse to throw like a lifeline. But there was no escaping this. She had been caught, cornered like a rat in a trap, and the walls were closing in. Lauren was still fuming, her hands clenched into fists, ready to lunge at Emily again. I wasn't going to stop her. Hell, I was enjoying the show. You're a disgrace, Lauren spat, eyes filled with pure disgust. Did you even think for a second about what you were doing? Did you think about your husband? About me? About your vows? Emily shook her head wildly. It wasn't like that, she stammered. Jason and it didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything? Lauren let out a harsh, bitter laugh. So you threw away your marriage for nothing? You let him whisper sweet nothings in your ear, promise you the world, and you didn't even bother to check if he was feeding the same lies to someone else? You pathetic, desperate, little. Enough. My voice was calm, cutting through the tension like a blade. We're done here, Lauren. You said your piece. Now let me handle my wife. Lauren exhaled sharply, her chest rising and falling. She looked at me for a moment, then nodded. Fine. But Jason's gonna regret the day he ever crossed me. She turned on her heel and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Silence. Emily slowly turned to me, her eyes glassy with panic. Mark. Sit down. My voice was like steel. She hesitated. Then, realizing she had no choice, she sank into the chair at the kitchen table. I paced slowly in front of her, every step measured, every second stretching into eternity. You lied to me. My voice was steady, controlled. Over and over. You looked me in the eye and swore you loved me while you were sneaking off to motels with him. Tears welled up in her eyes. It wasn't like that, I swear. I slammed my hands down on the table, making her jump. Don't lie to me again, Emily. I bellowed. I know everything. I know about the texts, the meetings, the fake errands, the late nights at work. I know about the motel, the 3 minutes, the fact that you couldn't even give your lover the courtesy of making it worth his damn time. She gasped, eyes wide. How do you know? I leaned in, my voice dropping to a whisper. Because I'm not a fool like you. She looked away, tears sliding down her cheeks. I never meant to hurt you. I let out a humorless laugh. That's the thing about betrayal, Emily. It doesn't give a damn what you meant. She sniffled, wiping her face. Mark, please. We can fix this. I'll end it. It was a mistake. A moment of weakness. You and I have built a life together. You don't just throw that away. You already did, I shot back. Her face crumbled. We can move past this. People do it all the time. I tilted my head, studying her like an insect under a microscope. You really think you can cry your way out of this, don't you? That I'll just swallow my pride and pretend it never happened? Her lip trembled. I love you, Mark. I laughed. A real, full-bodied, from the depths of my chest laugh. Love? You love me? That's funny, Em, because when I think of love, I don't picture my wife's legs wrapped around another man at a goddamn motel. Her face contorted with shame. You disgust me, I continued, voice dripping with venom. Every time I look at you, I'll see this moment. Every time I hear your voice, I'll remember your lies. And every time I touch you, I clenched my fists, shaking my head. No. That's over. We're over. Her breath hitched. Mark. Save it, I snapped. I walked over to the counter, grabbed a manila envelope, and threw it onto the table in front of her. That's our divorce paperwork. Ryan drew it up. Your signature goes at the bottom. She blinked at it, as if the words on the page were some kind of foreign language. Why, you already filed for divorce? What did you think was going to happen? I crossed my arms. That I'd just forgive you? That we'd go to therapy, work through it, come out stronger? I shook my head, disgusted. I don't work through betrayal. I eradicate it. Tears spilled onto the papers. Mark, pack your things. My voice was cold, final. You're leaving. Tonight. She broke down then, full-body sobs racking her frame. But I didn't care. I had spent months feeling empty, wondering where I had gone wrong, why my wife had become a stranger in my own home. But now, as I watched her crumble under the weight of her own choices, I felt nothing. No sadness. No regret. No sympathy. Just freedom. She looked up at me one last time, pleading. Please don't do this. I exhaled, shaking my head. You did this, Emily. Not me. I turned, walked to the door, and held it open. Now get the hell out of my house. She sat there, frozen. Her mascara-streaked face twisted in disbelief, her lips trembling as if she wanted to say something, anything, to make me change my mind. But there was nothing left to say. She had burned every bridge, shattered every illusion, and now she was drowning in the wreckage of her own choices. Mark, please. Her voice was small, pathetic. Where am I supposed to go? I stared at her, unblinking. Not my problem. Her hands gripped the edge of the table like she was trying to keep herself from falling apart. Can I at least stay the night? Just to figure things out? I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. You want to sleep under my roof? After everything? She flinched. I don't have anywhere else. Go to Jason. I smirked. See if he still wants you now that his wife knows he's a cheating bastard. The color drained from her face. That's when it hit her. Jason was done for. Lauren wasn't the type to sit back and cry in silence, she was going to make sure he lost everything. His house, his reputation, maybe even his job. Emily opened her mouth, then shut it. She knew I was right. She was alone. Good. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching as she slowly rose from the chair. Her movements were stiff, mechanical, like her body was moving before her brain could process what was happening. She swallowed hard. I never meant to hurt you. I scoffed. You keep saying that, like it makes a difference. Her eyes flickered with something, regret? Shame? It didn't matter. I had no use for her emotions now. She hesitated for a moment longer, then walked toward the bedroom. 15 minutes, I called after her. That's how long you have to pack. She turned, blinking fast, her breath hitching. You're serious? I stepped forward, towering over her. 15 minutes. She must have seen something in my eyes because she didn't argue. She just turned and disappeared down the hallway. The moment she was out of sight, I let out a slow exhale, running a hand down my face. Was this really happening? I had pictured a million different ways my marriage could end. But this? This wasn't one of them. I looked around the house, my house. The photos on the walls, the furniture we picked out together, the life we had built. And yet, standing there, it all felt fake. Like a set piece in a play where I had been cast as the oblivious husband, playing my role while she whispered lines to another man behind the curtain. No more. I walked to the bar cart in the corner and poured myself a drink. The whiskey burned as it slid down my throat, but the pain was welcome. It reminded me that I was still standing. Then, something caught my eye. Emily's phone. She had left it on the counter in her panic. Curiosity got the better of me. I picked it up, the screen lighting up in my palm. No passcode, idiot. I tapped into her messages, scrolling through the filth she thought I'd never see. Jason, we should run away together. No more sneaking around. Emily, I want to, but Mark would be devastated. Jason, he's a fool if he hasn't noticed by now. I clenched my jaw, swallowing the anger rising in my chest. Emily, I wish I met you first. I laughed out loud at that one. The irony. The poetic justice of it all. Jason was out of the picture now, and so was she. Still, I wasn't done. Not yet. I exited the messages and scrolled through her email. And that's when I found it, a flight confirmation. One-way ticket. Her name. Jason's name. The flight was booked for next week. So that was the plan. She was going to leave, no goodbye, no closure. Just vanish into a new life, while I sat here like a clueless idiot. She had no idea she had already lost. I heard footsteps behind me. Emily, carrying a suitcase, her face blotchy from crying. She stopped when she saw the phone in my hand. Her eyes widened. You really thought you were gonna leave without telling me? I asked, holding up the screen. Her mouth fell open. Save it, I snapped, tossing the phone onto the counter. You're not running anywhere, sweetheart. You're crawling out of here with nothing. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Mark, out. I pointed at the door. She hesitated. I don't even have a ride. I smirked. Then I guess you better start walking. And then, just like that, she was gone. I watched from the window as she stood outside, suitcase in hand, looking around like she expected someone, Jason, maybe, to swoop in and save her. But no one came. I drained the rest of my whiskey and smiled. She thought she was playing me. But I had just won the game. The silence in the house was deafening. For the first time in years, I was truly alone. No lies whispering through the walls, no fake smiles over dinner, no empty apologies dripping with deceit. Just me. And it felt good. I watched her from the window, standing on the sidewalk like a stray dog, clutching her suitcase like it held the last scraps of her dignity. No Jason. No getaway car. No last-minute rescue. I turned away, grabbing another glass from the shelf. But just as I was about to pour, the sound of a car pulling up outside made me pause. I walked back to the window, curiosity prickling at the back of my neck. A sleek, black BMW rolled to a stop in front of the house. My jaw clenched as I recognized the man behind the wheel. Jason. That cocky, self-righteous, not exactly a fresh-faced bastard. He stepped out like he owned the world, sunglasses perched on his arrogant face, a smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. He was dressed too well for the disaster he had caused, his crisp suit unbothered by the weight of his mistakes. Emily turned, eyes lighting up with relief. She took a step toward him. That's when I moved. The door swung open so hard it nearly flew off the hinges. I stepped out onto the porch, my presence enough to stop them both in their tracks. Jason's smirk faltered for half a second before he recovered. "Mark," he said, like we were old friends. "Didn't expect to see you out here." I descended the steps slowly, each one deliberate, calculated. "Didn't expect to see you either," I said, voice calm. Too calm. He glanced at Emily, then back at me. "Look, man." I hit him before he could finish. A solid right hook straight to his smug, cheating mouth. His sunglasses went flying, his body stumbling back against the car. Emily screamed. "Mark, stop." But I wasn't listening. Jason pushed off the car, shaking his head like he couldn't believe what just happened. Blood dripped from his split lip, his hand wiping it away as he looked at me with something between anger and amusement. "You're making a mistake," he said. I smiled. "So did you." He lunged, but I was ready. I caught him by the collar and slammed him against his own damn car, the impact rattling through my bones. "You think you can walk up to my house and take my wife?" I growled, tightening my grip. "You think I'm just gonna let you?" He struggled against me, his breath uneven. "She's not your wife anymore, man. She chose me." I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Yeah? Then why the hell are you still standing outside like a lost puppy instead of driving off into the sunset?" His jaw tightened. He knew I was right. Emily hadn't told him she got caught. Hadn't told him that I threw her out like last week's garbage. She lied to him too. I shoved him back, letting him stumble. He wiped his lip again, looking at Emily with something that almost resembled regret. Almost. "Get in the car," he told her. She hesitated. Jason sighed, rubbing his temple. "Jesus, Emily, don't make this harder than it has to be." I watched her, arms crossed. "Yeah, Emily," I mocked. "Go with him. See how well that works out." Her lips parted like she wanted to say something. Then, without another word, she grabbed her suitcase and slid into the passenger seat. Jason straightened his jacket, sending me one last glare before walking around to the driver's side. I leaned against the porch railing, watching as he climbed in, started the car, and pulled away. I should have felt angry. Bitter. But instead, I felt something else entirely. Amusement. Because I knew what Emily didn't. Jason was about to lose everything. Lauren was a hurricane in heels, and once she was done with him, he'd be lucky if he had so much as a mattress to sleep on. Emily thought she was running to safety. She was running straight into a storm. I went back inside, shutting the door with finality. The house was mine again. My life was mine again. I poured myself another drink, raised the glass in a silent toast to the night, and took a slow, satisfied sip. The night felt still. Too still. Like the universe was holding its breath, waiting to see what I'd do next. Jason's car had disappeared down the street, taking Emily with it, but I knew, that wasn't the last I'd see of either of them. She wasn't done making mistakes, and Jason wasn't done paying for his. I poured another drink, letting the whiskey burn down my throat as I leaned against the counter. I should have been angry, wrecked, broken. But I wasn't. I was alive. And for the first time in a long time, I was in control. My phone buzzed. Lauren. I smirked, already knowing what this was about. Lauren, you threw her out? Me, yep. Jason picked her up like a stray. A few seconds passed. Then. Lauren, good. Hope he enjoys being homeless. I raised an eyebrow. Homeless? Before I could ask, another message popped up. Lauren, meet me. I stared at the screen, considering. It had been a long day, but the idea of meeting Lauren? That was interesting. I grabbed my keys. The bar was dimly lit, half empty, the kind of place where no one asked questions. I spotted her immediately, sitting in a booth, one leg crossed over the other, a drink in her hand. She looked up as I approached, eyes sharp, dangerous. You look like hell, she said, smirking. I slid into the seat across from her. Feel like it too. She pushed a shot glass toward me. Drink. I didn't argue. She watched me for a moment, swirling the ice in her glass. So. Jason's out of my house. His stuff's on the lawn. Changed the locks. Froze the bank accounts. I let out a low whistle. Damn. You work fast. She smirked. He worked faster. Thought I wouldn't notice the missing money? The little business trips? She scoffed, taking a sip. He underestimated me. I leaned back. They always do. She studied me, something unreadable flickering across her face. You seem calm. Because I won. She tilted her head. And what exactly did you win? I chuckled, shaking my head. My freedom. My house. My sanity. I raised my glass. And the pleasure of knowing Jason and Emily are about to destroy each other. Lauren clinked her glass against mine. To karma. The whiskey burned, but it felt good. She leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. So what now, Mark? You gonna sit around, drink yourself stupid, and wallow in betrayal? I met her gaze, a slow smile creeping onto my lips. Nah. I think I've had enough of that. Her eyes darkened, something electric sparking between us. Good. The night stretched on, drinks flowing, conversation easy. I hadn't laughed this much in years. Hadn't felt this light. By the time we stumbled out into the cool night air, the weight of everything, the lies, the betrayal, the anger, felt distant. Lauren stood by her car, her hands tucked into her jacket pockets. I should go, she said, but there was hesitation in her voice. I stepped closer. Yeah. Silence. Charged. Her gaze flicked to my lips. I smirked. You thinking what I'm thinking? She let out a breathless laugh. That depends. I took another step. That this whole mess might have had one good outcome? She smirked. Maybe. Then, without warning, she grabbed my shirt and pulled me into a kiss, hard, desperate, like we were both trying to erase the ghosts of the past few months. And for the first time in a long, long time, I let myself forget. Forget Emily. Forget Jason. Forget everything except the taste of revenge on my lips. The morning hit like a hammer, bright, too sharp, too loud. The faint scent of whiskey still clung to my clothes, and my head throbbed with the aftershocks of last night. I sat up, rubbing my face. My sheets were tangled, the pillow beside me empty. Lauren was gone. Good. I wasn't looking for another disaster, and she wasn't the type to play house. Last night had been a storm, one I welcomed, one I needed, but that was all. I swung my legs over the side of the bed and grabbed my phone. Missed calls. Emily. I laughed. A full, deep, what the hell do you want now laugh. She didn't stop at calling. Messages. Long ones. Apologies, half-baked explanations, please. Pathetic. The last one, though? That one caught my attention. Emily, Jason kicked me out. I exhaled, shaking my head. Of course he did. It took less than a week. She thought she was running into some perfect fairy tale with Jason, and now? Now she was homeless. I set the phone down, stretching, taking my time before responding. When I finally did, I kept it short. Me, not my problem. Seconds later, my phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. Then, another text. Emily, please, Mark. Just talk to me. I stared at the screen, debating. But before I could decide, there was a knock at my door. Slow. Hesitant. I didn't move. Another knock. I ran a hand through my hair, standing, walking to the door like I already knew what I'd find. I opened it. Emily. She looked like hell. Hair a mess, dark circles under her eyes, lips chapped. She was still wearing the same clothes from the last time I saw her, but now they were wrinkled, stained, like she'd been dragging herself through the gutter. Because she had. Her arms wrapped around herself, a useless attempt at holding herself together. Mark, she whispered. I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. What do you want? Her throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. I have nowhere to go. I smirked. Not my problem. Her lips parted, her breath hitching like she hadn't expected me to be this cold. Like she thought I still had some stupid, broken part of me that cared. I didn't. You don't understand, she said quickly, stepping closer, desperation thick in her voice. Jason, he took everything. The money, my things, her voice cracked. He left me in a motel and never came back. I stared at her, unmoved. Sounds familiar. Tears welled in her eyes. Mark, please. Just let me stay until I figure things out. I let out a breathy laugh. You think I'm gonna let you back in? After everything? She reached for my arm, but I pulled back before she could touch me. You don't have to forgive me, she said quickly. Just, please. I have nothing. I tilted my head, pretending to think. Nothing, huh? She nodded, lips trembling. I stepped forward, looking her right in the eyes. Good. You deserve it. Her breath hitched. I smiled, slow and cruel. Now get the hell off my porch. A single tear slipped down her cheek. She opened her mouth, maybe to beg, maybe to curse me, but I didn't care. I shut the door in her face. Leaning against it, I exhaled, shaking off the weight of her presence. A moment later, I heard her footsteps retreating. I didn't look out the window. Didn't watch her walk away. I didn't need to. She was gone. And this time, I wasn't looking back. The quiet after slamming that door felt different. Not just an absence of sound, but an absence of her lies, her betrayals, her damn excuses. For the first time since this whole mess started, I didn't feel haunted. I felt free. I poured myself a coffee instead of whiskey, let the bitterness settle on my tongue as I stared out the window. No sign of Emily. Maybe she was still out there, sitting on the curb, hoping I'd crack. Maybe she was walking away, finally realizing she had burned every last bridge. Either way, it wasn't my concern anymore. A part of me wondered where she'd go. Would she crawl back to Jason, beg him to take her in? Doubtful. Lauren had made sure that bastard had nothing left. He was probably sleeping in his car, regretting every last mistake that led him here. Karma had done its job. And me? I wasn't bitter. I wasn't broken. I was done. The sun crept higher, painting the sky in gold, like a fresh start I hadn't asked for but damn well deserved. My phone buzzed again. I sighed, already preparing to ignore it, until I saw the name. Lauren. I smirked. Lauren, breakfast? I glanced at the empty seat across from me, then back at my phone. Give me 20. I grabbed my keys, stepped out onto my porch, and took one last look at the street where Emily had disappeared. No ghosts. No regrets. No second thoughts. Just me, moving forward. And damn, did it feel good.